040 hours. North Atlantic, Force 8 blizzard. On the radar screen of the USCGC Monroe Coast Guard cutter, the target is only 2 nautical miles away. Data from the P-8 reconnaissance aircraft confirmed that the target matched 100% with the Bella 1, the Venezuelan oil smuggling vessel that had vanished from global tracking screens for the past 3 weeks. Everything seemed settled. The target was locked. The mission was simply to intercept and seize. But when the high-powered searchlights pierced the storm and swept across the target vessel, the entire Combat Information Center CIC fell silent. It was indeed the Bella 1, but the name Bella 1 had vanished. Instead, the words Marinera were still wet with fresh paint, and atop the mast, a Russian flag flew defiantly. In an instant, a smuggling bus turned into a direct confrontation with the Kremlin. Retreating would mean admitting that U.S. sanctions were a joke. Moving forward risked triggering an international crisis. The time to make a decision was measured in minutes before the ship escaped into international waters. There was no margin for error. Watch to the end of this video to understand why the U.S. Navy didn't fire a single shot, yet still brought down the entire Russian-Venezuela oil smuggling network at its roots, a chess move that left the Kremlin speechless. To understand why the battle took place in these deadly waters near the Arctic, we need to rewind 72 hours. After the operation to arrest former President Maduro, Washington ordered a complete cutoff of the oil money that was sustaining the remnants of the Venezuelan regime. However, the smugglers were one step ahead by building what is called the Shadow Fleet, a collection of hundreds of dilapidated oil tankers purchased through shell companies. They constantly turned off their AIS to easily transport illegal oil around the world. And Bella 1 is one of the most cunning old foxes in this fleet. Normally, oil from Venezuela would pass through the Caribbean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean, but that area is now under tight control by the U.S. Southern Command. Therefore, they chose a different route heading north, slipping into the cold waters near Iceland, betting on the weather and gaps in surveillance. He believed he had found a back door to smuggle hundreds of millions of dollars worth of oil into the world. At the same time, a U.S. satellite detected a Yasin M-class attack submarine leaving a Russian northern base and submerging. But analysts at the Pentagon thought it was just a routine patrol. As soon as satellites from the National Reconnaissance Office (NRO) detected an unusual heat signature moving across the North Atlantic, the data was immediately fed into the U.S. Navy's tactical network. From the Keflavik base in Iceland, a P-8A Poseidon was ordered to take off and head straight into the eye of the storm. It used synthetic aperture radar to see through the snowstorm, confirming that the hull structure of the vessel matched 100% with the profile of Bella 1. Receiving the coordinates, the USCGC Monroe raced toward the target at flank speed. They believed they were going to apprehend a smuggler incapable of resistance. But as the Monroe approached, the situation suddenly turned upside down. The Monroe's passive sonar system suddenly lit up. The Russian submarine was not patrolling far away. It was right here, silently lurking just 5 nautical miles from the tanker like a guardian ghost. And the shock didn't stop there. As the searchlight swept across the hull, the name Bella 1 disappeared. The words Marinera and the Russian flag appeared defiantly. It turned out that while moving through the blizzard, Russia had quietly directed a change of identity for the ship and sent heavy escorts to protect it. The U.S. wanted to herd a sheep into the pen, but now they realized they were facing a whole pack of wolves. On the surface of the sea, the oil tanker, now the Marinera, appeared extremely confident, implicitly asserting this ship is protected by the Russian Federation. Maintain a safe distance or face the consequences. The head-on attack solution collapsed. The U.S. could not sink the oil tanker, nor could it engage in a torpedo exchange with Russian submarines. They needed a different approach, smarter, more cunning, to break this alliance. If you were the captain of the Monroe, facing a nuclear submarine, would you dare to move forward Type 1 to engage, Type 2 to retreat? Vote now in the comments. From a depth of 700 feet, the submarine Yasin M below unexpectedly performed an active ping emission, emitting an extremely powerful sonar pulse. It publicly compromised its position to implicitly challenge "I'm here" and conducting legal international patrols. Do you dare touch me? Russia plays the ambiguity card. The submarine transits there, but does not admit to being an escort. The surface ship flies the Russian flag, preventing the U.S. from approaching. If the U.S. attacks first, the U.S. is wrong. But the U.S. Navy found a crack in the opponent's armor. While the P-8 circled overhead, its high-resolution electro-optical camera system captured a small but critical detail at the stern of the Marinera. Although the name had been repainted and the flag replaced, the IMO International Maritime Organization number embossed on the steel remained intact. IMO number 9234567. The intelligence data system immediately cross-referenced. This number belonged to Beloa 1, registered in Panama. The evidence was in. The name Marinera was fake. The Russian flag was a cover. At the command center, Captain Monroe received orders from the Commander U.S. Second Fleet Launch Operation Decoy. The U.S. knew that the Russian submarine's primary mission was not to protect a barrel of oil, but to protect the fleet from major military threats. Taking advantage of this doctrine, the U.S. decided to create a giant Phantom. 50 miles to the east, another P-8 Poseidon silently dropped a series of new-generation sonobuoys. These buoys emitted the characteristic simulated sounds of a carrier strike group moving at high speed. Deep beneath the sea, the Russian submarine's passive sonar system picked up the signals: the propeller noise of an aircraft carrier, the water-cutting sound of an Aegis destroyer. The submarine's computer sounded the alarm, detected U.S. main force approaching starboard side. For the Russian submarine captain, this was a strategic threat. Following instinct and combat protocol, he was forced to abandon his escort position of the small oil tanker to redirect and intercept the ghost fleet rushing towards him. The oil tanker Marinera was now stranded in the middle of the ocean. Without its escort, it was like a fish on a cutting board. But the U.S. was in no hurry. They launched their second strike, the Checkmate. Captain Monroe communicated directly with the Russian Ministry of Defense through diplomatic channels, sending a cold ultimatum. "We are closing in on the Marinera at coordinates. Insert fake coords." This ship flies the Russian flag, but the IMO number 9234567 on its hull confirms that it is the Bella 1 Panamanian nationality. "We demand Moscow confirm is the Russian Navy issuing illegal flags to foreign vessels to evade sanctions." This was a ruthless diplomatic checkmate. The U.S. had forced the Kremlin's hand. If they confirm, yes, that is our ship, it would mean Russia publicly admitting before the UN Security Council that it is directly operating a smuggling network and protecting international criminals. The price to pay in terms of political credibility is too high. But if they deny it, they would save face, but it would mean selling out their ship and crew. 3 minutes passed in suffocating silence. Finally, the response from Russia came brief and cruel as expected. The Russian Navy has no recorded activity at these coordinates. Any ship there does not represent the Russian Federation. The pawn had been sacrificed. As soon as the denial from Russia was received, the green light order was issued. First, the Monroe activated its electronic warfare system, jamming all satellite communications of the Marinera. The oil tanker was immediately cut off completely from the outside world, becoming blind and deaf. Next, the MH-65 Dolphin helicopter hovered overhead, dropping entanglement nets directly in front of the oil tanker's bow. These ultra-durable synthetic cables tightly wrapped around the Marinera's propellers, forcing the massive vessel to halt in the middle of the sea. The engines roared futilely before going silent. The LEDAT Special Forces team immediately fast-roped down onto the ship's deck. But instead of firing, they threw flashbangs and ordered the use of LRAD long-range acoustic device equipment. This device emits a beam of high-frequency sound, causing intense pain to the eardrums, but no permanent injury. The group of mercenaries on the ship, despite being armed, were immediately incapacitated, forced to drop their weapons, cover their ears, and retreat. The LEDAT team moved in tight CQB formation, quickly subduing and disarming the guards without firing a single shot. They advanced straight to the bridge. The Russian captain attempted to barricade the door, but the American-made hydraulic breaching tools took just 10 seconds to break through the steel locks. As American experts searched the ship, they discovered a surprising truth. The oil tanks were almost empty. The Marinera was not carrying oil to Venezuela, but was on its way to West Africa to receive a shipment of weapons and secret missile components in exchange for oil for the old regime. If the U.S. had focused solely on seizing the oil, they might have been disappointed. But thanks to the capture of the intact ship along with its entire computer system ledgers and communication equipment, which had not yet been destroyed, the U.S. obtained an intelligence goldmine, a list of the entire global arms oil smuggling network, ghost bank accounts, and the identities of corrupt officials on 3 continents. The value of this intelligence was hundreds of times greater than the value of the oil shipment. The deception was completely exposed. Faced with irrefutable evidence and the overwhelming presence of law enforcement, the captain of the Marinera was forced to bow his head in acceptance. The Russian flag was lowered. The ship was officially seized. In the darkness of the Atlantic, the Marinera was not just a captured ship, it was proof of a new American doctrine of warfare controlling the seas through information and psychology, not just firepower. But imagine what would have happened if this scenario had deviated by just 1 millimeter. What if the captain of the Russian submarine Yasin M hadn't fallen for the acoustic bait? What if he had decided to stay and fire a warning torpedo to protect the fleet's honor? Or more simply, what if Russia had decided to go all in, claiming the ship as its own, despite the evidence of the forged IMO number? Just one wrong move like that, and this morning's news wouldn't be about a smuggling bust. We'd be talking about NATO invoking Article 5. Global oil prices wouldn't just fluctuate, they'd vanish from electronic boards. The North Atlantic would become a new ship graveyard. The line between a law enforcement operation and World War III is thinner than you think. That is precisely why today's victory by the US Navy is being called a gray zone masterpiece by the military. But make no mistake, the game is not over. The history of confrontation between superpowers is an endless cycle of adaptation and retaliation. Today, the Shadow Fleet lost a pawn, but tomorrow they will learn this lesson the hard way. Will Russian oil tankers next be escorted by openly armed frigates instead of secret submarines, or will they develop sophisticated IMO number spoofing technology that can fool even the P-8's laser scanners? Could Moscow even retaliate by seizing Western commercial vessels in the Arctic Ocean? The cat-and-mouse game on the oceans will only become more intense, more sophisticated, and more dangerous. And as the new game begins, the US Navy will have to prepare even deeper traps. What about you? How do you assess Moscow's ruthless sacrifice, the pawn to save the rook move? Do you believe the US will maintain this upper hand forever, or will Russia deliver a surprise counterattack next month? If you find this military knowledge interesting, please give this video a like. Don't forget to share it with your military-loving friends so they understand that modern warfare is a battle of wits, not just brawn. And most importantly, subscribe and turn on notifications, because when the next geopolitical chess game unfolds, we'll be here to decode it with you in the most thorough, detailed, and incisive way possible.